I had sex with Cassie and Sean. Basically, he would masturbate and tell me what to do with Cassie. I had like 15 encounters, and I heard a lot.
When Jonathan Oddie made these claims years ago, we all brushed it off as the ramblings of a madman. However, the latest revelations in Diddy's ongoing trial prove that he wasn't so mad after all. These latest allegations from his sex slaves may have provoked Diddy into dropping the swinger angle and admitting to basically everything. We've got the 411, and I'm here to put you on. Diddy cracks under pressure. Let's begin the story from the person who got Diddy to finally crack. Jonathan Oddie, a former adult film actor, has claimed he was Diddy's sex slave alongside Cassie. He alleges he signed an NDA with Combs and received a $5 million settlement. Now, Oddie's claims initially surfaced after a wild incident in 2018 when he was arrested following a shootout at Trump National Doral Golf Club in Florida. At the time, he told police he had engaged in certain activities with Cassie under Combs' direction, describing himself as a sex slave. These claims were dismissed as outlandish at first. I mean, the circumstances were pretty bizarre. But here's where it gets interesting. Cassie's testimony in the 2025 trial appears to corroborate some of Oddie's claims. Suddenly, what seemed like the ramblings of someone trying to create a distraction during an arrest is looking a lot more credible.
Do you know Sean Combs?
Puff Daddy?
Yeah.
P. Diddy, whatever you call himself these days. Yeah, go ahead.
In a News Nation interview, Oddie claimed that Combs and Cassie threatened him during settlement negotiations. He alleged having intimate encounters with Cassie multiple times at Combs' request. Oddie remains in a Florida jail, awaiting trial on unrelated charges, including attempted murder of police officers, so his credibility is definitely complicated. But the overlap between his story and Cassie's testimony can't be ignored. So, let's set the scene. It's May 2025 in a Manhattan federal court, and one of hip-hop's most powerful moguls is fighting for his freedom. Sean Diddy Combs is facing serious charges of sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Y'all, this ain't about some parking tickets or tax evasion. We're talking potential life in prison. The trial started on May 12, 2025, and Chile, the tea that's been spilled, could fill the Atlantic Ocean. Federal prosecutors aren't playing around. They're painting a picture of Combs as the head of a criminal enterprise that used violence, threats, and manipulation to force women into certain inappropriate activities. And at the center of their case, Cassie Ventura, Diddy's ex-girlfriend of 11 years and a survivor with a story that'll make your blood run cold. Cassie stepped into that courtroom with strength that deserves all our respect. For 4 days, May 13th, 2025, she sat on that witness stand, reliving trauma that would break most people. She testified for nearly 20 hours, detailing physical, emotional, and psychological abuse throughout their relationship from 2007 to 2018.
Cassie got on the stand and she detailed everything from the first day that they met to the times that they spent together, her 21st birthday where that was her first time kissing.
Now I know what some of y'all might be thinking, but they seemed so happy in those Instagram posts. Please, social media is basically professional lying 101, especially when you've got a controlling partner managing your entire image. According to Cassie's testimony, behind those filtered photos was a nightmare of control that would make even the strictest parent look chill. Cassie told the court that Diddy controlled everything: her career, her appearance, who she could talk to, where she could go. She testified that arranging certain private activities became her job, and she described feeling worthless and humiliated. That's like having a full-time position as your own prison warden, while your captor sits back and calls himself your mentor. Make it make sense. But the control went far beyond just telling her what to wear or who to hang with. The court heard about what the prosecution calls freak-offs, a term that's become central to this whole case. What are freak-offs, you ask? Well, let's keep it PG-13. According to Cassie's testimony, these were elaborate drug-fueled private gatherings where Diddy would allegedly force her to engage in intimate activities with male escorts while he watched. She testified that these encounters happened hundreds of times over their relationship and that she had to use substances just to mentally check out from the situation. Imagine being forced to do something so uncomfortable that you need to literally numb yourself just to get through it. That's not a relationship. That's torture with a fancy label.
She's just sprawled out on the ground with her mouth open while two men just pee on her.
And before the Diddy defenders jump in the comments talking about, but she stayed, let me shut that down real quick. Cassie testified that Diddy used threats and violence to ensure her compliance. This wasn't a situation where she could just pack her bags and bounce. This was a powerful man with connections everywhere who allegedly made it crystal clear what would happen if she tried to leave. Speaking of violence, the jury was shown surveillance footage from 2016 that shows Diddy physically assaulting Cassie in a hotel hallway.
In the video, Combs can be seen striking and kicking Ventura.
as she tried to leave.
The video, which CNN aired in May 2024, shows Combs chasing Ventura down a hotel hallway, grabbing her by the neck, throwing her to the floor, and kicking her while she's down. Imagine being such a tough guy that you're kicking someone who's already on the ground, and a woman half your size at that. That's not strength. That's straight up weakness. But wait, it gets worse. Cassie also accused Combs of something truly horrific. She testified that he raped her in 2018 after their relationship had ended. The pain of her testimony was so raw that she broke down several times on the stand. This isn't just celebrity drama. This is a woman recounting some of the most traumatic experiences of her life in front of the entire world. Now, Diddy's legal team, led by attorney Mark Agnifilo, is trying to spin a completely different narrative. They're arguing that all these activities were consensual and part of a swinger lifestyle. They're also trying to undermine Cassie's credibility by bringing up text messages where she allegedly expressed enthusiasm for certain encounters. But let's be real for a second. If someone has you under their control, makes you financially dependent on them, and has shown they're willing to physically harm you, are you going to send texts saying, "Help, I'm being abused"? Or are you going to try to survive by playing along? That's like blaming someone for smiling in a hostage video when there's a gun pointed at them off camera. The power dynamics here matter, and the prosecution is making sure the jury understands that. But Cassie isn't the only one speaking out. Remember Dawn Richard from Danity Kane and Diddy Dirty Money? She took the stand on May 16, 2025, and testified that she witnessed Combs physically attacking Cassie multiple times, including an incident at a Los Angeles hotel in 2009. Dawn's testimony is crucial because it backs up Cassie's accounts and shows this wasn't just a one-time he lost his temper situation, but a pattern of abuse. And then there's the testimony from a male escort who confirmed he was paid to have certain relations with Cassie while Diddy watched. This adds another layer of verification to Cassie's claims about these freak-offs. The prosecution also called Special Agent Yassine Binder, who testified about Combs' arrest in September 2024 at a Midtown hotel. What did they find? Around $9,000 in cash, illegal substances, and, I kid you not, baby oil and other personal items. Cassie had previously testified that these supplies were regular features at these freak-offs. Coincidence? I think not. Let's talk about settlements for a second, because they're a key part of this whole saga. Cassie settled a civil lawsuit against Combs in 2023 for $20 million, which she disclosed during her testimony. Oddie claims he received a $5 million settlement with an NDA. Diddy's legal team is trying to use these settlements to suggest financial motives behind the accusations, but prosecutors have a different take. They argue the settlements reflect Combs' attempts to silence victims. Think about it. If you're innocent, why are you paying tens of millions of dollars to make accusations go away? That's like me giving you $20 million and saying, "Please don't tell anyone I didn't do anything wrong." Make it make sense. And the settlements don't stop there. Cassie recently received a $10 million settlement from the Intercontinental Hotel related to that 2016 incident caught on camera, the one where security just stood by while a woman was assaulted, because apparently some hotels think full service includes turning a blind eye to violence in their hallways. One of the most heartbreaking parts of Cassie's testimony was when she discussed undergoing therapy, including EMDR, to address PTSD from the trauma. For those who don't know, EMDR is a specialized therapy specifically designed for processing severe trauma. This isn't someone who's making things up. This is someone who's been so deeply hurt that she needs specialized treatment just to function, and yet she still found the courage to testify about the elusive freak-offs, the freak-off factory. Let's get into what these freak-offs really were, according to court testimony, because they're central to the sex trafficking charges. The term refers to elaborate, drug-fueled, intimate gatherings orchestrated by Combs, allegedly involving controlled substances, male escorts, and coerced participation. Federal prosecutors claim these didn't just happen in one location, they allegedly occurred globally, supporting the interstate and international elements needed for federal sex trafficking charges. Cassie testified that these events were highly controlled, with Combs directing the activities like a movie director with a seriously twisted vision. Imagine someone choreographing your most private moments, telling people where to stand, what to do, all while filming it, and you're just expected to perform like it's normal. That's the level of control we're talking about here.
She says that, it was very well choreographed. Like, it was almost, when she was describing it, I was like, it sounds like he was shooting a music video.
Executive producing.
Speaking of filming, this is where things get even more disturbing. Some reports claim Combs recorded these events, potentially using the footage for blackmail to ensure silence from participants. Now, I can't verify if these claims have been substantiated in court yet, but if true, it would explain why so many people stayed silent for so long. Imagine being a young singer or celebrity, getting caught in one of these situations, and then knowing there's footage that could ruin your entire career. That's next-level manipulation. And let's talk about the substances allegedly involved, because this isn't just about power, it's about deliberately removing people's ability to consent. Prosecutors claim claim Combs used narcotics including cocaine, oxycodone, ketamine, methamphetamine, and other substances to keep victims obedient and silent. That's like a chef drugging your food so you'll give them a 5-star review, except infinitely more sinister. The evidence backing these allegations is substantial. When authorities raided Combs' homes, they seized over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant, items Cassie testified were regularly used during these freak-offs. That's not a normal amount for personal use, y'all. That's wholesale quantities. That's I'm running a business quantities. Now, Diddy's legal team is trying to spin all of this as consensual. They're arguing that all the intimate activities, including the freak-offs, were part of a mutually agreed upon swinger lifestyle. They've been highlighting explicit text messages where Cassie allegedly expressed enthusiasm for certain encounters, suggesting she was a willing participant. But here's the thing about consent. It can't exist in an environment of fear, coercion, and power imbalance. If someone is controlling your career, your money, your housing, and has demonstrated they're willing to physically harm you, your yes isn't really a yes. It's survival. That's like saying someone consented to giving up their wallet when there was a knife to their throat. Technical compliance is not the same as enthusiastic consent, period. And Cassie wasn't the only alleged victim. The federal indictment mentions multiple victims, though most are identified only by pseudonyms to protect their privacy. The charges against Combs involve at least 5 victims identified in court documents. Victim 1 is widely believed to be Cassie Ventura. Victim 2 is an unidentified woman allegedly coerced into commercial intimate acts. Victim 3's status is uncertain. Prosecutors reported difficulty contacting her or her lawyer, and as of May 12, 2025, she may not testify. Victim 4 was added in a superseding indictment filed in January 2025, and Victim 5 is a recently introduced potential witness who might replace Victim 3 if she doesn't testify. The absence of Victim 3 has actually created some drama in the trial. Diddy's defense team has considered motions for a mistrial or delay, arguing that the prosecution's case is weakened without her testimony. Some reports from May 9, 2025 indicated that this witness had gone missing, causing concern among prosecutors. Her testimony was expected to include explosive details of abuse, but we don't have confirmation of her current status. But the criminal trial is just the tip of the iceberg. In addition to these federal charges, Combs faces over 60 active civil lawsuits as of April 2025, with more in preparation. These lawsuits, filed primarily in New York under the Adult Survivors Act and the Victims of Gender-Motivated Violence Act, allege sexual assault, inappropriate behavior with minors, drugging, and abuse spanning from 1990 to 2023. Texas-based attorney Tony Busby and the AVA Law Group are representing many of these accusers, and they announced plans to file up to 120 lawsuits in October 2024. That's not a typo, y'all. 120 lawsuits. That's not a scandal. That's a pattern of behavior so extensive it could fill a phone book. The accusers represented by Busby include both men and women, 60 of each, according to his October 2024 announcement. And most disturbingly, 25 of these accusers were allegedly minors at the time of the incidents, including a 9-year-old boy allegedly abused at a Bad Boy Records audition in New York, a 13-year-old girl allegedly drugged and violated at a 2000 VMA after-party, and individuals aged 14 and 15. Let that sink in for a minute. Children. At industry events, at auditions where they were hoping to launch their careers. This is beyond disgusting. It's criminal in the most severe sense. And if you're wondering how Busby's team selected these cases, they reportedly received over 3,000 calls, vetted 15,000 claims, and selected 120 credible cases. Some accusers reported incidents to police, doctors, or the FBI, and some claim they were drugged or offered hush money to stay quiet. As of April 2025, 39 of these lawsuits were active, 2 were dismissed, including one involving Jay-Z due to inconsistencies, and more are planned across multiple states. And according to reports, over 400 potential new cases are under review. The scale of these allegations is unprecedented, even in an industry that's seen its share of scandals. According to statistics compiled from the lawsuits, at least 81 named and anonymous accusers have filed lawsuits, with 43 women and 38 men. At least 17 accusers were under 18 at the time of the alleged assaults, with ages as young as 9, 13, 14, and 15. At least 64 accusers claim they were forced to consume tainted alcohol or substances, and at least 41 accusers allege assaults at events or parties, often with celebrities present. Many people worry that Diddy might evade justice as he has multiple times. Justice delayed and the road ahead. As of May 17, 2025, we're only in the 5th day of what's expected to be an 8-10 week trial. Judge Aaron Subramanian is presiding over the case in Manhattan Federal Court, and so far, the testimony has been explosive. Cassie has concluded her 4 days on the stand, and we've heard from Dawn Richard, a male male escort, a hotel security manager, and a federal agent. Coming up, we're expecting to hear from Cassie's former best friend, Kerry Morgan, and her mother, who are scheduled to testify early next week. The prosecution is building a methodical case, bringing in witnesses who can corroborate different aspects of Cassie's testimony and establish a pattern of behavior. One witness, whose testimony is highly anticipated, is a former employee referred to as Mia. She's expected to detail further abuse, with her attorney noting her extreme nervousness about testifying. Can you imagine how terrifying it must be to take the stand against someone who allegedly controlled and threatened you? These witnesses aren't just sharing stories, they're putting themselves at risk to ensure justice is served. But there's also drama surrounding a missing witness. Reports from May 9th, 2025 indicated that Victim 3, a key witness, had gone missing, causing concern among prosecutors. Her testimony was expected to include explosive details of abuse, but we don't have recent updates confirming her status. This has led to Diddy's defense team considering motions for a mistrial or delay, arguing that the prosecution's case is weakened without her testimony. And this isn't the only legal challenge the defense has mounted. On May 9th, 2025, Judge Subramanian denied Combs' motions to suppress evidence from searches of his Los Angeles and Miami mansions and to dismiss 2 counts against him, marking setbacks for the defense. They're fighting hard, but so far, the judge isn't buying what they're selling. There have even been unverified claims of jury tampering. A post on X from May 7th, 2025 claimed Combs attempted to influence jurors, though this hasn't been substantiated by mainstream reports and remains speculative. But given the severity of the charges and Combs' resources, it's something the court is likely watching closely. Let's talk about the charges again, because they're serious. Combs faces felony charges that could lead to life in prison if convicted. The prosecution alleges he ran a criminal enterprise involving coerced intimate acts and violence over 2 decades. This isn't just about his relationship with Cassie, it's about a systematic pattern of behavior that allegedly victimized numerous people. The defense's strategy is clear. They're painting Combs as a flawed but not criminal man whose relationships, including the freak-offs, were consensual and part of a swinger's lifestyle. They're emphasizing jealousy and infidelity as the root of conflicts, particularly with Cassie, and questioning her motives, pointing to her civil lawsuit settlement. But there's a fundamental problem with this defense. It doesn't address the power dynamics at play, the allegations of drugging, the documented physical violence, or the sheer number of accusers who have come forward. It's like trying to use a band-aid to cover a gunshot wound. It simply doesn't address the scale and severity of the allegations. As the case unfolds, there are broader implications to consider. Commentators, including former prosecutor Lonnie Coombs, view the trial as a litmus test for societal attitudes toward accountability for sexual abuse post-Me Too. This is a high-profile case involving a black music mogul with significant cultural influence. How society responds to these allegations says something about our values and whether we're truly committed to holding powerful men accountable regardless of their status, wealth, or race. The trial is also highlighting questions about the music industry's willingness to protect predators. For decades, rumors have swirled about Combs' behavior, yet he continued to receive awards. Now, let's talk about Diddy's fall from grace, because it's been swift and dramatic. Before his arrest in September 2024, Combs was detained in Brooklyn and has remained there since, unable to secure bail despite his enormous wealth. That's how seriously the court is taking these charges. Not even Diddy money can buy his way out of this one. His empire is crumbling before our eyes. Brands have dropped him, his music has been pulled from playlists, and the legacy he spent decades building is tarnished beyond repair. This man, who once called himself Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Puffy, and Love, is now most commonly referred to as defendant. Some might call it karma, but I call it consequences finally catching up after years of alleged abuse. For too long, celebrities have been treated like they're above the law, like their talent or success gives them a pass to behave however they want. This case is showing that eventually the bill comes due, and it doesn't matter how many hit records you've produced or how many millions you've made. But the most important aspect of this trial isn't about Diddy's fall, it's about justice for the alleged victims. For people like Cassie, who testified that the abuse led her to consider suicide, this trial represents a chance to reclaim their narrative, to have their truth acknowledged, and to see their alleged abuser held accountable. Family members of both Combs and his accusers have been present in the courtroom, including Combs' mother Janice and Cassie's husband Alex Fine, underscoring the personal stakes involved. Imagine sitting in that courtroom as a loved one testifies about the most traumatic experiences of their life, or as your family member faces allegations that could send them to prison for life. The human cost of this case extends far beyond just Diddy and Cassie. It's also worth noting the courage it takes for these accusers to come forward, especially given the power dynamics involved. Federal authorities have established a tip line, Sex Trafficking Outreach HHSI, dhs.gov, or 1-8774-HSI-TIP, for victims to share information, suggesting they anticipate more people may come forward as the trial trial progresses. Each person who speaks up is not just seeking justice for themselves, but potentially helping others who have suffered similar abuse. Now, there have been some wild conspiracy theories floating around about this case, particularly on social media. Some posts on X have referenced other accusers, including a female victim who claimed to have been trafficked by Combs, and named other celebrities like Denzel Washington and Birdman, though these claims lack corroboration in court testimony and should be treated skeptically. There are also unverified claims linking Combs to broader conspiracies, such as the deaths of Kim Porter, Notorious B.I.G., and Tupac Shakur, as well as child trafficking. These allegations, primarily from X posts, lack substantiation and are not part of the current legal proceedings. While it's natural for people to connect dots and speculate when a powerful figure is accused of serious crimes, we need to stick to the facts and evidence presented in court. Speaking of evidence, one crucial aspect of this trial is the role of recordings and videos. Judge Subramanian has denied media requests to publicly release freak-off videos, citing privacy concerns. Privacy screens are being used for explicit evidence to limit public viewing in the courtroom. This is an important balance, ensuring transparency in the trial process while also protecting the dignity of victims. Now let's talk about what happens after this criminal trial concludes, because this isn't the end of Diddy's legal troubles. Even if he's somehow acquitted in this case, he still faces dozens of civil lawsuits from men and women alleging sexual abuse, which his team has called money grabs. These are separate from the criminal case, but add to the scrutiny. As this trial continues to unfold, we'll keep you updated on the latest developments. But one thing is already clear. Regardless of the verdict, the music industry will never be the same. The veil has been lifted, exposing alleged abuses of power that were hidden in plain sight for decades, and that exposure is the first step toward creating a culture where exploitation and abuse are no longer tolerated, no matter how powerful the perpetrator might be. So, what do you think about all this? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, but please be respectful. We're talking about real people and real trauma here. And remember, if you or someone you know has experienced sexual assault or abuse, resources are available. The National Sexual Assault Hotline, 1-800-656-HOPE, provides confidential support 24/7. Thanks for watching. Check out other cards on the screen. Diddy's entire life is crashing down. Accusations upon accusations every other day.
The wall of silence has now been broken, and victims are coming forward.
A lot of lawsuits are being leveled against him, so much so that he was put on suicide watch. But that is not all. Right now, there are whispers that he may start attacking his friend's character in court to protect himself and his son, who, spoiler alert, has a misconduct case of his own. With all this happening, it's no surprise he's breaking down. Being locked up in the Metropolitan Detention Center will do that to you. There are so many parts to this story, but first, let's talk about Diddy's mental breakdown. Since his arrest, Diddy has been held in federal custody at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. As if the gravity of the charges wasn't enough, authorities have placed him under a procedural suicide watch. For high-profile detainees like Diddy, this move is often considered routine. However, sources close to the case suggest that the situation may be more complex than it appears. The intense public scrutiny, coupled with the overwhelming nature of the allegations, has raised concerns about his mental health. Those who once admired him now watch closely, wondering how he's coping as he faces what could be a life-altering trial. Combs, who built his career on resilience and ambition, appears outwardly defiant, with a spokesperson claiming he remains strong, healthy, and focused on his defense. But beneath this facade, the pressures are mounting. A man who once commanded stages and boardrooms now finds himself confined to a jail cell, surrounded by guards monitoring his every move. For someone accustomed to luxury and control, this new reality must be incredibly disorienting. I mean, look at it this way. For decades, Sean Diddy Combs lived in a world most people could only dream of. Mansions, luxury cars, and endless freedom to move as he pleased. But today, that life is gone, replaced by a harsh reality in Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, one of the most notorious federal prisons in New York. Every morning starts early and without choice for Diddy, who once could sleep in or wake to a chef-prepared breakfast in his mansion. Instead, he's woken up in a tiny, dimly lit cell, fed simple, bland meals, and has a strict daily routine he has no control over. Known for his tailored suits and high-fashion wardrobe, Diddy now wears the same standard prison clothes as everyone else, blending into the sea of inmates in grey and tan. Gone are the designer furnishings. His world has shrunk to a small, cramped cell, thin mattress, and concrete walls. Privacy, once a constant luxury, has disappeared entirely. In the few times he's seen his family, the emotion has been raw. Christian King Combs, along with his siblings, showed up in the courtroom to support him, but visits are rare, brief, and bittersweet. Each encounter brings some comfort, but also underscores just how much has changed, as they can only see him from a distance, unable to truly be with him. During his most recent court appearance, Diddy's face lit up as he waved to his son and blew a kiss to his mother. He left the room with a small smile, but the reality of prison life means these moments are fleeting. Inside MDC, Diddy's status means nothing. The wealth, fame, and influence he wielded for decades don't afford him any special privileges here. There's no negotiating with guards or bending the rules in this place. Each day, every move he makes is dictated by the facility's unbending regulations. In a place where power means nothing, Diddy has been forced to accept a reality that's beyond his control for the first time in his life. Meanwhile, the list of allegations continues to grow at a pace that's difficult to keep up with. Over 25 civil suits have been filed against Combs, with many more rumored to be on the way. These lawsuits paint a disturbing picture of an empire allegedly built on manipulation, control, and abuse. The allegations date back as far as the early 2000s, a time when Diddy was at the peak of his career, and they continue through recent years. According to the lawsuits, he allegedly orchestrated parties that were little more than freak-offs, depraved gatherings where power dynamics were exploited and vulnerable individuals were taken advantage of. Reports claim that these encounters were recorded as a means of exerting control over his victims, a tactic that many describe as psychological as well as physical manipulation. But recently, new lawsuits have implicated other celebrities who were allegedly present during some of these parties. Recently, a suit filed by Texas attorney Tony Busby mentioned high-profile names such as Nicki Minaj, Lil Kim, and Mary J. Blige. While the lawsuit does not suggest that these celebrities were involved in any illegal activities, their presence at these events is very suspicious. The parties, often grandiose displays of wealth and fame, now appear to have been cover for something far more sinister. Although these celebrities' roles remain unclear, their names in the lawsuit are raising red flags. For the first time, stories from inside these notorious gatherings are coming to light. One accuser, identified as Jane Doe, alleges that she was only 13 years old when she was invited to an MTV Video Music Awards after-party hosted by Diddy in 2000. She recalls being given a drink that left her feeling drowsy. What followed, she claims, was a scary experience in which she was assaulted by an unnamed male celebrity, while Diddy and another female celebrity reportedly watched. These accounts are not isolated. The lawsuits describe instances where individuals, including minors, were allegedly drugged, assaulted, and left powerless to resist. Federal agents claim to have found disturbing evidence, including over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and other lubricants that were allegedly used in these so-called freak-offs. The description alone of these parties is deeply unsettling, as is the implication that Diddy maintained a calculated, systematic approach to exploiting those who found themselves within his circle. As if these revelations weren't enough to shake his image, recent reports reveal that Combs was allegedly attempting to use his influence to silence witnesses. His lawyers recently requested an order to prevent potential witnesses and their attorneys from speaking publicly about the case, claiming that such statements could influence the trial. This move shows a desperate attempt to regain some semblance of control as the walls close in around him. His legal team, confident in their client's innocence, has argued that these claims are nothing more than slanderous attempts to tarnish his reputation. They insist that Diddy is prepared to face trial and will fight to clear his name. In a statement, his attorneys expressed their belief that the truth will prevail, and that Diddy has never sexually assaulted anyone, adult or minor, man or woman. But with each new accusation, their defense becomes an uphill battle. Even as they seek to discredit the charges, the public's perception of Diddy is shifting, with many now viewing him less as a hip-hop icon and more as a fallen star. For Combs, the stakes couldn't be higher. If convicted on the federal charges alone, he faces a minimum of 15 years and up to a life sentence. The severity of these potential consequences is a lot, especially as more witnesses come forward with accounts of alleged abuse. In one instance, a 17-year-old aspiring artist claims he was drugged and assaulted by Combs, who promised to make him a star. This pattern of preying on young, hopeful individuals under the guise of mentorship is a common theme among the allegations. This portrays Diddy as a predator who uses his influence to manipulate those around him. As the trial date approaches, the tension continues to escalate. With each passing day, new lawsuits emerge, new victims speak out, and new revelations bring Diddy's actions further into the spotlight. This relentless pace is affecting not only Combs, but also his family, who recently released a statement standing by him. His 6 children, devastated by the turn of events, expressed their support, describing the ordeal as a nightmare and pledging to stand by their father through what they believe is an unfair trial. In the weeks leading up to his trial, Diddy's lawyers have one last card to play, an appeal to secure his release from federal custody while he awaits the proceedings. They argue that he poses no flight risk and that his continued detention only hampers his ability to prepare for his defense. However, federal prosecutors have staunchly opposed any type of leniency, viewing him as a dangerous individual with a history of exploiting his position. The appeals court is set to hold a hearing on the matter, but honestly, the odds are not in his favor. But now everything we do know, one question is on our mind: will Diddy turn on his friends? With Sean Diddy Combs facing his toughest legal battle yet, his friendships and alliances hang by a thread. Diddy, who has spent years basking in the glow of his high-profile friendships, is now standing on uncertain ground, sparking fears among his inner circle that he might go to drastic lengths to escape prison, even if it means turning against those closest to him. This worry has seeped into the lives of many of his famous friends, particularly Ashton Kutcher, who once considered Diddy a close ally. Now, Kutcher reportedly feels betrayed, manipulated, and afraid that his association with the music mogul could come back to haunt him. Ashton Kutcher, who built a bond with Diddy over nearly 2 decades, now finds himself rethinking every part of that friendship. He's reportedly expressed feelings of betrayal, not unlike those he experienced when his friend Danny Masterson faced similar scrutiny. Kutcher is left wondering if Diddy might throw his name, or the names of other celebrities, into the fire if it helps him reduce his sentence. According to sources, Kutcher has felt lied to and manipulated by someone he once trusted, fearing Diddy could say or do anything to sidestep the weight of his legal troubles. The actor is now on guard, keeping his circle close, with only his wife, Mila Kunis, as his confidant. This fear is not unique to Kutcher. Many of Diddy's once vocal friends and associates have now gone silent, which has sparked public curiosity and criticism. High-profile names like Jay-Z, Justin Bieber, and even Naomi Campbell, who once shared stages, business ventures, and red carpets with Diddy, are now nowhere to be found in his corner. Crisis management experts say this silence is likely a calculated strategy. By avoiding any association with Diddy at this critical time, they may be trying to safeguard their own reputations and shield themselves from the potential fallout of his unraveling case. But for these celebrities, the question still lingers. If the pressure on Diddy continues to mount, could he implicate them to save himself? Sources close to the investigation reveal that those in Diddy's orbit are nervous about his next moves. His legal team will likely be looking for any leverage they can find, and Diddy's extensive connections could be seen as one last lifeline. The thought of such a high-profile personality dragging others down with him is what reportedly keeps Ashton Kutcher up at night. For Kutcher, the anxiety is especially personal, as he knows that his association with Diddy could be misconstrued, especially if the rapper chooses to disclose names and details from his past. Although Kutcher insists he has nothing to hide, he's quite horrified at the possibility of being tied to the allegations. The tension within Diddy's circle doesn't end with Kutcher. Many of his industry friends are facing a dilemma, wondering if continued silence is enough to distance themselves from the mounting scandal. These celebrities were once happy to be photographed with Diddy, share stories, or even collaborate with him in public. Now they're retreating, aware that one wrong move could tie their name to a case that grows darker with each passing day. It's a dangerous situation, with some fearing that Diddy's potential survival mode could include desperate measures like pointing fingers at those who once supported him. Diddy's social connections have long been a part of his brand. His influence reaches across industries, from entertainment to business and beyond. Friends like John Legend, Mary J. Blige, and Mark Wahlberg once mingled with him, attending his lavish parties and forming partnerships. He even shared screen time with Prince Harry, whose name came up in civil cases involving Diddy earlier this year. But now, under the glare of criminal investigation, Diddy's web of connections is becoming a liability. Friends and associates are wondering how far he would go to protect his legacy and if he might turn against them in the process. PR expert Evan Nierman, CEO of Red Banyan, emphasizes that public figures are likely being advised to stay silent, as any connection to Diddy could reflect poorly on them. For some, that silence has a dual purpose, not just distancing from Diddy's situation, but also making it harder for prosecutors to involve them in any investigation. By keeping their heads down, they can avoid the scrutiny that could come from being implicated by someone desperate to escape the consequences of a high-stakes trial. Yet Kutcher's case remains unique. Unlike many of Diddy's associates, Kutcher's loyalty had always been genuine. He and Diddy weren't just party acquaintances or business associates, they were genuine friends who spent time together watching sports and attending family events. Now, Kutcher's heartache goes beyond just public perception. He's grappling with the realization that his friend might be willing to betray anyone to escape the grip of the law. According to sources, after seeing evidence of Diddy's alleged behavior, Kutcher and Kunis became alarmed, leading them to rethink everything they thought they knew about him. Diddy's upcoming trial could serve as a test for Hollywood's elite circle. revealing how friendship holds up in the face of life-changing consequences. Those who once viewed Diddy as a valuable ally are now weighing the potential costs of their loyalty, and Kutch's fear is surprising at all. Just take a look at what's happening with Jay-Z and Beyoncé. They aren't implicated in Diddy's case at all, but because of their close association, have come under scrutiny. With Diddy's accusations, Jay-Z is more than frustrated. According to close sources, he's downright furious about being dragged into something he's had no part in. And Beyoncé, though managing her share of drama, is standing by him fully, ready to take on the madness together. It's no secret that Jay-Z and Diddy have a shared history. They were two kings in hip-hop, building empires side by side, collaborating and creating while pushing the culture forward. But those familiar with their dynamic say it wasn't always smooth sailing. Disagreements over ventures and strategies in the early 2000s created distance between them, and as years passed, they grew further apart. Their connection was mostly business, and now that distant link is enough to cause real problems. But it doesn't stop with just Jay-Z's ties to Diddy. Beyoncé is dealing with bizarre rumors too. Conspiracy theories, in fact. Some are saying that celebrities have to thank her in their award speeches or face some imaginary wrath. While they might laugh at the idea in private, it's adding fuel to a fire they don't want to be near. This situation has pushed Jay and Bey to protect their names and their legacy with more urgency than ever. But what really set Jay-Z off was a recent move by Piers Morgan. The UK presenter aired an interview with musician Jaguar Wright, who shockingly called Jay-Z a monster, lumping him in with Diddy.
Because he's just the beginning. Until him and his cohorts are all held to account publicly and legally, the victims, they're not safe.
The baseless accusations were the last straw. Jay's team, led by attorney Alex Shapiro, hit back hard. They even threatened legal action against Morgan for allowing these unfounded claims to go on air. Morgan ended up apologizing to the Carters, retracting the allegations, but Jay-Z's stance couldn't be clearer. Anyone trying to drag his name into Diddy's mess better be ready to face the consequences.
Their lawyers contacted us to say that those claims were totally false and have no basis in fact.
Making things even tenser, Tony Busby, a lawyer involved in the lawsuits against Diddy, recently announced that more defendants might soon be named. This statement sent ripples through the industry, with longtime associates of Diddy now wondering if they'll be called out too. And while Jay-Z and Beyoncé have kept their distance from Diddy's issues, the constant threat of association is keeping them on edge. Initially, the couple believed silence was the best way to avoid adding fuel to the fire. But as rumors began to spread like wildfire, they knew ignoring them wasn't enough. Now, Jay-Z's legal team is fully on guard, ready to go after anyone who tries to connect him to Diddy's controversy with unfounded claims. But as Jay-Z deals with unfounded allegations, Diddy deals with the fact that his world is crashing down, his family is being caught in the crossfire, and the only way out may be to snitch. Walls closing in. As Sean Diddy Combs sits in a dimly lit cell, facing charges that could unravel his empire, rumors swirl about how far he might go to save his legacy, and his son Christian. Once the ultimate music mogul and industry kingpin, Diddy now faces potential life-altering consequences. Yet, it's the threat looming over his son, Christian, that might drive him to make an unthinkable choice, breaking the long-held code of loyalty in the industry. Just days after attending Diddy's federal court hearing, where his father faced severe charges, Christian King Combs made headlines himself, but not for reasons you'd expect. In a nightclub video that quickly went viral, King was seen celebrating with his girlfriend, Raven Tracy, dancing and pouring drinks as if nothing was amiss. To many, it was a surprising sight given his father's serious situation. King's timing couldn't have been worse. Social media users jumped on the video, calling it disrespectful and tone-deaf. Not a good look, one comment read, as people urged him to keep a low profile and look less menacing and guilty. But instead of lying low, King did the exact opposite. He dropped a diss track aimed at none other than 50 Cent, one of Diddy's longtime rivals. The song, boldly titled Pick a Side, threw shade at federal agents who raided the Combs family properties, with lyrics like, "Police raid the crib like they think we selling crack, but we out here selling tracks." The track didn't stop there. King took direct shots at 50 Cent, saying, "Pop's been hated on by many men and that's fine. They gon' try to stop these M's and they gon' die trying." It was a public declaration of loyalty to his father, but it only added fuel to the fire. In response, 50 Cent wasted no time him taunting King, posting on Instagram, "Now why would you say something like this when you know the feds are investigating? Is you stupid or is you dumb?" It was a jab aimed at King's loyalty, his recklessness, and the fact that both he and his father were under intense legal scrutiny. But the story doesn't end there. King's diss track comes at a time when he is battling allegations of misconduct stemming from a recent lawsuit that named both him and Diddy. This accusation, along with his recent public behavior, paints a complicated picture. On one hand, he's showing an unwavering loyalty to his father, willing to go toe-to-toe with 50 Cent and defend his family's name. But on the other hand, his actions, party videos, bold lyrics and all, come across as naive, even reckless, given the stakes. As the Combs family faces these trials, both literal and figurative, King's decisions could hold significant consequences. He's standing at a crossroads, where loyalty to his father could either prove him to be a steadfast supporter or end up dragging him deeper into the public and legal fallout. And as Diddy's trial date approaches, the stakes are only getting higher. For King, these moments could make or break not just his career, but his own future. Right now, he seems to be walking a thin line between family loyalty and his own public image, one misstep away from falling deeper into the shadows of his father's scandal. For decades, Diddy built a world of power, fame, and connections. He's crafted an empire that pulls in everyone from musicians and moguls to actors and celebrities, forming alliances with the likes of Jay-Z, Naomi Campbell, and Ashton Kutcher. He threw exclusive parties, brokered high-stakes deals, and created a legacy that seemed unshakable. But now, with prosecutors potentially eyeing Christian's role in his father's world, the stakes are higher than ever. Though Christian is not under investigation, the sheer possibility that he could be dragged into his father's legal battles has Diddy rethinking everything. The idea that Diddy might snitch to save himself or his family is very interesting. In an industry where loyalty is a badge of honor, the thought of Diddy trading secrets or implicating friends to secure Christian's future has his inner circle on edge. Ashton Kutcher, who has known Diddy for nearly 2 decades, reportedly feels betrayed and fears his name could be dragged into the controversy if Diddy decides to make a deal. This sentiment is quietly spreading among other famous friends, many of whom have benefited from their association with Diddy, but now worry they could be used as bargaining chips. Diddy's once untouchable status now feels fragile. As legal pressures mount, he's left with few options, and his once solid friendships may not hold if he prioritizes his family's survival. For those close to him, this is no small feat. Diddy has always commanded loyalty through charisma and influence, but as his friends start questioning their allegiance, they realize that the bonds they've built with him may not withstand the weight of his current challenges. Their silence speaks volumes, a strategic decision to avoid being tainted by association, but also a recognition of the growing rift between them and the man they once trusted. If Diddy does face the unthinkable decision to sacrifice relationships to protect his family, Christian's name at the center could become a driving force. The mogul's friends, who've reveled in his world, may find themselves wrestling with their loyalty to someone who could, under pressure, reveal secrets or accuse former allies. Now, with the looming trial, speculation mounts about who might be called to testify, who has truly severed ties, and whether Diddy will ultimately honor the trust of those who stood by him or prioritize his son above all else. For Diddy, the line between loyalty and survival has never been thinner, and with Christian's future on the line, no one knows which side he'll ultimately choose. But with the accusations, investigations, and friendships on the line, certain questions are on our minds. Will he protect his empire at all costs, or will refuse to snitch? For now, the world can only watch as he fights in court, uncertain if his breakdown marks a moment of vulnerability or the beginning of an entirely new strategy. As he faces what might be the defining battle of his life, Diddy's fate, his legacy, and perhaps his loyalty to those around him remain on the edge. Thanks for joining us today. Check out our other videos for more thrilling and entertaining content.